Let's begin by simply noticing the weight of your body, feeling supported, feeling safe. As you sink a little deeper into that comfort, you can allow my voice to be a soft companion, a gentle guide for your drifting mind. Tonight, there is nothing to solve, nothing to figure out. We are simply visiting another time, another place, a world that existed with its own perfect logic right up until the moment it didn't. It's a quiet tale about a sky that suddenly learned to speak, and the people who tried to understand its new language. The story of what we now call the cargo cults. As you begin to settle, you might offer one final, sleepy tap on the like or subscribe button. Think of it as a gentle end to your active day, and a quiet beginning to your rest. There's no need to rush, of course. Your comfort is all that matters. And if you feel so inclined, you can let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight, and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's a quiet way of knowing we are all here, together in this moment of calm. Alright, let the shadows in your room grow long and soft. Maybe you can hear the faint sound of your own breathing, and together, let's allow the story to begin. The air on your skin is thick, warm, and wet. It tastes of salt from the nearby ocean and smells of damp earth and the sweet, decaying perfume of 1,000 different flowers. You are standing on a narrow path, worn smooth by generations of bare feet. It is everything. The day revolves around a rhythm as old as the mountains that rise in the island's center. In the cool of the morning, you tend to the gardens. Your hands are calloused and strong from working the soil, planting the taro and, most importantly, the yams. Yams are not just food here. They are power, they are status, they are the measure of a man and a clan. You build special houses, long and low to the ground, just to display your finest yams. A man with a full yam house is a man of consequence. A village with many full yam houses is a place of strength. It's a logic as solid and real as the stone axe in your hand. Later, you might walk down to the lagoon, where the reef breathes with the tide. The water is a dizzying array of blues and greens, and you can see the parrotfish nibbling on coral. Here, you and the other men of your village might take to the outrigger canoes carved from a single great tree that seems sealed with breadfruit sap. You know the secret languages of the currents, the places where the big fish sleep. Your world is woven together by family, by clan, by stories told around the fire at night. These stories are your history, your science, your religion, all in one. They tell of the spirits of the ancestors who are not gone, but merely elsewhere. They watch from the high peaks, they whisper in the rustle of leaves, and they can influence the yam harvest or the success of a hunt. They must be respected, honored with rituals and gifts. And what gifts do you offer? Well, besides the best yams, there is the pig. Pigs are the other great currency of your world, but not just any pig. The greatest sign of wealth, a truly sacred object, is a boar whose lower tusks have been encouraged to grow in a perfect, breathtaking circle. To achieve this, a piglet's upper canine teeth are carefully knocked out. Without them to grind against, the lower tusks grow and grow, curving back on themselves, sometimes piercing the boar's own jaw before completing one, or even two, full circles. This living, breathing, and frankly, very uncomfortable form of wealth is a sight of immense power and prestige. It is a thing of beauty, a sacred geometry you understand completely. Your island feels like the whole world, but is it? Historians and anthropologists still debate just how isolated places like yours really were. For generations, the common view was that you were a lost world, a people untouched by time. But others argue that the Great Ocean was more of a highway than a barrier. Perhaps every few years, a canoe from an island chain 100 miles away, blown off course by a storm, would wash up on your shores, bringing a new face. So perhaps you aren't completely alone, but you are certainly unprepared. As the sun begins to set, casting long, deep shadows across the village, you sit with your family. The air cools slightly. The sounds of the jungle change, the birds of the day giving way to the insects and creatures of the night. You look up at the sky. It is a familiar ceiling, pricked with the silver lights of stars you know by name. It is the home of the moon and the path of the sun. It holds rain and wind. It is vast, silent, and empty. ever held anything else, you feel a deep but weary satisfaction from a day of good work. Your world is stable, it makes sense, and you have no reason to believe that tomorrow will be any different. The fire in the center of your village gathering space crackles and spits, sending a column of fragrant smoke straight up into the windless, starry night. The darkness beyond its orange glow is absolute, a solid thing, filled with the clicks, chirps, and rustles of the unseen world. This is the time for stories. The time when the boundary between the world you walk on and the world you walk on, the world of the spirits, becomes thin, like a worn-out sleeping mat. You pull your knees to your chest, the warmth of the flames pleasant on your skin, and you listen. You listen to the tales of the ancestors. They are news from the other side, because here, the dead are not truly gone. They have simply completed a journey that you yourself will one day take. They have gone to reside in the volcano that slumbers in the center of the island, or perhaps on a distant, mythical island of their own, a place called Tumuna. They are still family. They very, very powerful and slightly unpredictable branch of the family, but family nonetheless. Their presence is everywhere. When the wind moves through the banyan trees, you hear their whispers. When a sudden landslide blocks a path, it is a sign of their displeasure. A pig that grows fat and healthy, a yam harvest that fills the storehouse to bursting, these are signs of their favor. Your life is a constant, quiet negotiation with these unseen guardians. You know the places they favor, a strange-shaped rock outcropping, a small, dark cave behind a waterfall, a particularly ancient tree whose roots seem to grip the very heart of the island. You leave them small gifts. The first taro from the garden, a lock of a child's hair for protection, the feathers of a colorful bird. It is a system of respect, of reciprocal obligation. They watch over you, and you remember them. This unseen energy that permeates everything has a name. You might call it mana. It's a concept as clear to you as the water in the lagoon. It is a spiritual power and effectiveness, a kind of divine authority that some people places, and even objects possess. A great warrior who has never fallen in battle has immense mana. The village elder whose wisdom has guided you through droughts and disputes has mana. Even a stone axe, if it was made by a master craftsman and has felled many great trees, can accumulate its own mana. It is a force that can be gained, and it can be lost. You gain it through great deeds, through proper ritual, through the favor of the ancestral spirits. You can lose it by breaking a taboo, by showing disrespect, or by failing in an important task. This is why some men are more successful than others. It isn't luck. It's mana. It explains why one canoe glides faster than another, why one man's garden flourishes while his neighbor struggles. The world is not a series of random events. It is a reflection of the balance of this spiritual power. Your entire society is built around cultivating it, protecting it, and showing it off. A man with many circular tusk-head pigs hasn't just accumulated wealth. He has demonstrated his powerful connection to the spirit world. He has potent mana. Scholars from another time and place will spend decades trying to neatly define this belief. They will argue endlessly about whether your understanding of the spiritual world was static for thousands of years, or if it was constantly in flux, absorbing new ideas, new spirits, new rituals with every generation. Some will argue that to even attempt to classify it with their foreign words is to misunderstand it completely. They wonder if these beliefs are a rigid code, or more like a living language, constantly evolving to describe a changing world. For you, of course, there is no debate. It simply is. It is the framework that gives meaning to the sunrise, the harvest, the storm, and the silence. And so you understand your purpose. Your job and the job of every person in your village is to perform the correct rituals, to honor the ancestors, and to live in a way that accumulates mana. If you do these things, the world provides. The yams grow, the fish are plentiful, the children are healthy. This is the great transaction, the fundamental logic of the universe. Ritual leads to favor, and favor leads to abundance. It is a truth so profound, so self-evident, that you cannot imagine a world that operates on any other principle. Everything, absolutely everything that happens can be explained within this system. Or so you believe as you watch the last embers of the fire fade into the overwhelming darkness of the Pacific night. The morning light filters through the woven coconut frond walls of your hut, striping the dirt floor in pale yellow. The air is already getting warm. In your hands, you hold a different kind of power, one you can touch and measure. It is a long, heavy loop of hundreds, maybe thousands of tiny, disc-shaped shells, each no bigger than your little fingernail. They are polished smooth by the sea and by the hands of men. To you, this is not a piece of jewelry. This is wealth. This is a story of immense labor. Think about the journey of just one of these shells, plucked from a specific type of seaweed in a specific, hard-to-reach part of the reef. Then, the most difficult part, a tiny hole must be drilled through its center. You don't have metal for this. The work is done with a delicate drill made from a sharpened bird bone or a sliver of obsidian, spun between the palms for hours and hours until it pierces through. One slip, one moment of impatience, and the shell shatters. The work wasted. Each perfect disc is threaded onto a long strand of hibiscus fiber, polished with sand, and measured in specific lengths, often the span of a man's arms. This coil in your hands represents months, maybe years of patient, painstaking work. It feels cool and heavy, and it makes a soft, satisfying clatter when you move it. This is your money. Alongside the sacred, circle-tusk-head pigs, these shells are the bedrock of your economy. But your idea of an economy is not about buying and selling to make a profit. It's about creating and maintaining relationships. You don't have kings or hereditary chiefs who rule by divine right. You have big men, and a man becomes a big man not by hoarding his wealth, but by giving it away. You watch him now, the big man of your village. He wears his status openly. His chest is adorned with coils of shell money, his arms with bull-tusk bracelets. But his true power is invisible. It lies in the complex web of debts and obligations he has created. He sponsors the great feasts, giving away dozens of his finest pigs and yam harvests. He helps young men from his clan pay the bride price, the substantial gift of shells and pigs, given to a bride's family to legitimize a marriage. Every gift he gives is a thread, and he is the weaver at the center of the web. The recipients of his generosity are now in his debt. They owe him their loyalty, their support in disputes, their labor when it's time to build a new or clear a new garden. His wealth is not static in a vault. It is constantly flowing, a dynamic force that binds the community to him. This entire system puzzles outsiders who will one day try to understand it. Anthropologists will debate whether to call this money at all. Is it a currency, like a dollar or a pound, used for simple, impersonal transactions? Or is it something more, a social object where the act of exchange is more important than the thing being exchanged? You, of course, wouldn't understand the question. When you trade a 10-arm span length of shells for a prize pig, you are not just buying the pig. You are forging an alliance with its owner. You are creating a relationship that will be remembered, discussed, and will need to be reciprocated in the future. And your world is full of different kinds of value. There are the shells and the pigs, of course. But there are also finely woven mats, so soft and intricate they take a woman a year to complete. There are the brilliant red feathers of the honeyeater bird, which are woven into belts and headdresses of incredible prestige. Each has its place, its value, its role in a feast, a marriage, or a peace treaty. It's a complex and deeply human system. Crucially, your world is a world without metal. You have never seen it. The concept of digging something hard and shiny from the earth is utterly alien. Your hardest tools are stones, polished to a sharp edge. Your knives are flakes of obsidian, traded from the volcanic highlands, brittle but razor sharp. Your building material is wood. Your ropes are vines. Your ropes are vines. Your containers are gourds or woven baskets. You live in a world of organic materials, a world of things that grow and can decay. The idea of something permanent, something that doesn't rot or break down, something that can be melted and reshaped with fire, that is the stuff of spirits, not of men. This material reality shapes your entire perception of the world. Sharpness is the sharpness of a tooth. Value is the patient work of human hands and the life force of a living pig. The weight of shells in your hand feels real, earned, and alive with social meaning. It's a weight you understand. You pick it up from the ground where you left it the evening before. The tool feels perfectly balanced in your hand, an extension of your own arm. It's an adze. The wooden handle, weathered smooth and dark from the sweat of your palm, is L-shaped, carved from a single piece of ironwood chosen for its strength and the natural angle of its grain. But the real heart of the tool, the part that holds the mana, is the blade. It's a piece of basalt, a hard, dense volcanic rock, painstakingly chipped and then ground for weeks against a whetstone with sand and water until it holds a sharp, polished edge. It's lashed to the handle with a tight, intricate binding of sennit cord, made from the fibers of a coconut husk. This is the peak of your technology. It is a masterpiece of Stone Age engineering. With this adze, you can perform miracles. You can fell a tree that has stood for 100 years, its trunk so wide it would take 3 men to encircle it with their arms. The work is slow, rhythmic. A steady thunk-thunk that echoes through the forest for hours, each blow chipping away at the wood, the air filling with the clean, sharp scent of sap. With this adze, you can hollow out to create the sleek, fast shape of an outrigger canoe, a vessel that will carry you safely across the treacherous reef and into the deep blue water where the tuna run. You can shape the posts and beams for a new hut, carving the joints so precisely they fit together without a single peg, held by the strength of the wood and the tightness of the lashing. Everything you have, everything you build, is a testament to this tool and the skill of the hands that wield it. The men in your village spend their lives mastering its use. You can tell the work of a master craftsman by the smoothness of the finished wood, the clean lines of the carving. It's a knowledge passed down from father to son, a physical memory held in the muscles and the eye. There is no other way to shape the world. And what a world of wood it is! Your home is made of it. Your bowls are carved from it. The effigies of your ancestors, with their staring shell eyes, are brought to life from it. Even your weapons, the long, heavy spears tipped with fire-hardened wood, or the jagged barbs of human bone, the flat, paddle-like clubs designed to break limbs, are products of this deep understanding of timber and fiber. Your life is a constant, intimate dialogue with the forest. You know which trees have the straightest grain for spear shafts, which vines are the strongest for rope, which leaves make the most waterproof thatch for your roof. You even know which barks can be pounded into a rough sort of cloth. This knowledge is not abstract, it's a matter of life and death. Choosing the wrong wood for a canoe could mean it splits in a heavy swell. Using a weak vine for a lashing on your house could mean it collapses in a storm. One of the most ingenious things you create is fire itself. You don't have flint and steel. You have wood. You use a fire plow, a simple but effective tool. You cut a groove in a soft piece of wood and then rub a harder stick, the plow rapidly back and forth in the groove. It's exhausting work, requiring immense upper body strength and endurance. Your arms burn, your shoulders ache, but you persist. Slowly, a fine black dust begins to accumulate at the end of the groove. You blow on it gently, coaxing it until a tiny red spark begins to glow. This fragile ember is carefully transferred to a waiting bundle of tinder-dry coconut husk fibers, and with a few more gentle breaths, it bursts into flame. This small, precious fire is then used to light the main cooking fire for the village. It is a sacred act, a daily miracle of friction and breath. Historians looking back will marvel at the efficiency and elegance of your toolkit. They'll debate the exact timeline of its development, questioning whether these techniques were independently invented on your island or if they were part of a great wave of cultural knowledge that spread across the Pacific thousands of years ago. Was your adze a local innovation, or a distant echo of a technology born on a continent you've never heard of? The adze is simply the tool your grandfather used, and his grandfather before him. It works. It provides. It allows you to carve a life out of the dense, formidable jungle. As you stand there, the adze in your hand, you look at the towering trees around you. They are not just resources, they are beings. They have spirits. Before you fell a great tree, you must speak to it, explain why you need its strength, and ask for its permission. It is a sign of respect, a recognition that you are part of this living world, not its master. You are a shaper of wood. Yes, but you are also shaped by it. Its limitations are your limitations. Its strengths are your strengths. The world of stone, wood, and fiber is the only world you can conceive of. You are sitting on the worms and where the jungle meets the beach, watching the outrigger canoes bob gently in the turquoise lagoon. The rhythmic crash and hiss of the waves on the outer reef is a sound as familiar as your own heartbeat. This ocean is your life. The calm, shallow waters inside the reef are your garden, providing fish, clams, and seaweed. But beyond that line of white foam, where the reef drops away into the deep, dark blue, that is a different world. It is a place of power, of danger, and of mystery. It is the place from which stories come. You call them saltwater stories. Tales told by the old men when the day's work is done and the sea breeze picks up. Some are about the great sea spirits, the shark gods, and the octopus demons that can swallow a canoe whole. But others are different. They are about people. The oldest man in your village, his skin as wrinkled and tough as a dried coconut, sometimes tells a story he heard from his grandfather. It's about a canoe that appeared one morning after a great storm. It was not like your canoes. It was misshapen, with a strange single sail. And the men inside were not like you. Their skin was the color of bleached coral, and their hair was the color of the sun. They were weak from thirst and hunger. They stayed for one moon cycle, speaking in a tongue that sounded like the squawking of birds, before they repaired their strange canoe and vanished back into the blue. They left only one thing behind, a small piece of shiny, grey rock that wasn't a rock, even in the midday sun, and impossibly hard. The grandfather kept it as a powerful charm, until it was lost in a tribal dispute a generation later. These stories remind you that the ocean, vast as it is not always empty. You know this in your bones. The most skilled sailors in your village, the ones who command the great voyaging canoes, don't need to sail and to know where they are. They are masters of a science you can write down. Lying on their backs in the hull of the canoe, they can feel the subtle patterns of the ocean swells. They can distinguish the deep, powerful swell that has traveled 1,000 miles from the cold south from the quicker, shorter swell generated by a storm a day's journey to the east. By reading the intersection of these waves, by observing the flight paths of certain birds and the color of the water, they can navigate across hundreds of miles of open ocean to find an island, no bigger than a speck on the horizon. The ocean is not a barrier. It's a network of pathways, a geography of currents and wave. Future scholars will call this wave piloting, and will debate fiercely whether the peopling of the Pacific was a series of accidental drifts or a deliberate, heroic age of exploration guided by this profound, non-instrumental knowledge. Was your island settled by a handful of people blown off course, or was it the planned destination of expert navigators who read the ocean like a map? For you, the answer is simple. Your ancestors were the greatest sailors the world has ever known, and they came here because they chose to. That lately, the saltwater stories have been different. They are not from the distant past of the grandfathers. They come from neighboring islands, carried by canoes that make the daring crossing once every few years for trade and marriage. A story from an island to the west tells of a ship so large it blocked out the horizon, with sails as white and numerous as a flock of gulls. The men on it were said to have sticks that made the sound of thunder and could kill a pig from 100 paces away. A cousin who married into a clan on an island to the north sent a message. They had seen a ship that moved against the wind with no sails at all, trailing a plume of black smoke that stained the sky. These stories are unsettling. They don't fit into the known world. The men in them are not like the half-drowned visitors from the grandfather's tale. They are powerful. They possess a mana that is strange and terrifying. The elders of your village discuss these tales in low, serious voices. Are they a new kind of ancestor? Or are they just men, from a land so different that their tools seem like magic? There is no consensus. There is only a growing sense of unease. You look out at the horizon, that clean, sharp line where the deep blue of the water meets the pale blue of the sky. It is empty. It is peaceful. But for the first time in your life, you feel a deep, prickling uncertainty. The world, which has always felt so complete, so contained within the shores of your island and the stories of your people, now feels porous. It feels like it has edges you have never seen, and something you feel is coming from beyond them. It begins with a sound that has never been heard before in the history of your people. It is not the rumble of a distant storm, nor the roar of the ocean in a gale. It is not the crash of a falling tree or the cry of any known bird or beast. It is a low, persistent drone, a humming that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. You are in the gardens, your hands deep in the rich, dark earth. When you first notice it, you freeze. All around you, others stop their work, their heads cock, their faces a mixture of confusion and alarm. The humming grows louder, deeper. It becomes a rhythmic, throbbing roar that vibrates in your chest, in your very bones. It is a sound of immense power, of something vast and heavy moving with impossible speed. The insects stop their chirping. The entire jungle seems to be holding its breath, listening to this intruder. Instinct takes over. You feel a primal fear, a terror of the unknown. You and the others scramble for cover, diving under the broad leaves of the taro plants, pressing yourselves against the earth as if trying to burrow into it. Then you see it. High above the canopy, a dark shape passes across a patch of blue sky. It is a tear in the fabric of reality. It moves too fast, too smoothly. It is not flapping like a bird. It is rigid, angular, with a long straight body and wings that do not move. They are fixed, like the branches of a dead tree. The roar is deafening now, a physical force that washes over the island. You clamp your hands over your ears, your heart hammering against your ribs. A demon from the darkest legends. Is it the angry spirit of the volcano finally roused from its slumber? Your mind grasps for an explanation, any explanation, but finds none. The world you know has no category for this thing. It circles the island once, a predator surveying its territory. Its shadow, a fleeting patch of darkness, sweeps across the treetops, across your village, across the sacred places of the ancestors. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the sound starts to fade. The shape grows smaller, receding into the vast, indifferent blue of the sky until it is just a speck, and then it is gone. Silence floods back in, but it is a different kind of silence now. It is heavy, ringing. For a long moment, no one moves. Then, slowly, people begin to emerge from their hiding places, their faces pale, their eyes wide with shock. Children are crying. The village dogs are whining, their tails tucked between their legs. You look at the sky. It is empty again. Blue, peaceful. Exactly as it has always been. But it is not the same. It can never be the same. You have seen something that your language has no word for. The rest of the day is lost to a haze of fear and speculation. The elders gather, their faces grim. The big man tries to project an aura of calm, but you can see the uncertainty in his eyes. Every possible explanation is offered. It was a warning from the ancestors, a sign of their displeasure. Perhaps a taboo was broken, a ritual performed incorrectly. Others argue it was a spirit from another, more powerful island, a display of its fearsome monarch. Their minds, already half in the spirit world, whisper that it was the end of days, the final cataclysm foretold in the most secret and terrifying of the old stories. No one works. No one works. No one eats. The rhythm of the day is broken. Everyone just gathers in small, hushed groups, looking up at the sky, waiting for the world to make sense again. That night, no one tells stories around the fire. The usual comfort of the old tales feels inadequate, hollow, in the face of this new, incomprehensible reality. This moment, this first contact, is a subject of great debate for future historians. Some will argue that the shock would have been so profound as to be paralyzing, a cultural earthquake that shattered your worldview instantly. Others will suggest a more gradual process of adaptation, arguing that humans are resilient and that your existing belief systems would have immediately tried to incorporate the anomaly, to find a place for it within the old stories. But for you, huddled in the darkness, the academic theories are irrelevant. You feel only a cold, creeping dread. The sky, once a familiar, silent friend, has spoken. and you do not understand what it said. It felt like a threat. A few days pass in a tense, watchful quiet. The sound does not return. A fragile sense of normalcy begins to reassert itself. You go back to the gardens, you fish in the lagoon, but one ear is always cocked to the sky. Every strange bird call, every gust of wind rustling the leaves makes you flinch. The world feels thinner now, less solid. Then it comes back. Not one this time, but three. Three of the terrible, sky monsters, flying in a precise, unnatural formation. The roar is overwhelming, a physical assault that rattles the teeth, but this time something is different. They are flying lower, so low that you can see details. They are not made of flesh or feather. They are smooth, hard, and they glint in the sun like a wet stone. They have markings on their sides, strange geometric symbols and patterns of color you've never seen. They do not pass over. They circle lower and lower, their roaring song changing in pitch. It becomes a deep, guttural growl. They are heading for the flat stretch of land on the far side of the island, a place you avoid, a grassy, sun-scorched plain that the elders say is home to mischievous, ill-tempered spirits. As you watch from the edge of the jungle, your fear now mixed with a paralyzing curiosity, the monsters do the most impossible thing yet. They fall from the sky. But they do not crash. They descend with a terrifying, controlled grace. From their bellies, strange, spindly legs emerge, ending in fat, round feet. With a final, suppressed one touches the earth. It bounces once, twice, then rolls across the plain, slowing, until it finally comes to a stop. Then the second, then the third. The sound changes again, sputtering and whining before cutting out into an abrupt, shocking silence. There they sit, silent and immense on the forbidden plain. They are bigger than any hut, bigger than the great ceremonial longhouse. They are the largest things you have ever seen that were made by you don't know what they were made by. They don't look like they were carved or woven or grown. They look like they were all from some other reality. And then a new miracle occurs. A part of the monster's side opens up. Not like a mouth, but like a perfectly straight line has been cut into its skin, a section of which hinges outwards to form a ramp to the ground. You shrink back further into the shadows of the trees, your knuckles white as you grip your wooden spear. What will come out? What kind of being commands a creature like this? The figures that emerge are just as strange as their vessel. They are shaped like men. They walk on two legs, but that is where the resemblance ends. Their skin is pale without color, like the belly of a fish or the flesh of a grub. Their heads are covered in strange, hard shells, and their eyes are hidden behind lenses of dark, shining crystal. Their bodies are wrapped in drab, green-colored skins that fit them perfectly, with no seams you can see. They do not walk with the easy, barefoot gait of your people. They move with a stiff, rhythmic purpose, their feet encased in heavy black coverings that make a dull, thudding sound on the ground. You are watching the belly of the bird give birth to its children, and your first thought is not that they are men from another land. It is that they are spirits. They have to be. They are the pale ancestors, returned from the island of the dead, or they are sky beings, the physical embodiment of the power that roared from the heavens. Mortals cannot tame such beasts, cannot make such things. This is not the work of human hands as you know them. Outsiders will later try to explain the principles of aerodynamics, the internal combustion engine, the use of aluminum alloys. These explanations delivered in a strange tongue and laden with concepts for which you have no words like metal, fuel, engine, factory will be utterly meaningless. They are just sounds. What you are seeing with your own eyes is far more direct, far more potent. It is an act of pure, world-altering magic. The logic is simple and irrefutable. These beings have a mana of a magnitude you cannot even begin to comprehend. They have descended from the sky in chariots of thunder. The only rational responses are awe and terror. You stay hidden at the jungle's edge for what feels like a lifetime watching. The ghost men, the men without color, move with a strange, coordinated purpose. They do not seem to notice the jungle, the heat, the world you live in. They are entirely focused on their own tasks, their own reality. They unload boxes from the bellies of the sky beasts. Not woven boxes, but hard-sided ones, all identical, all painted the same lifeless green. They stack them in perfectly straight lines, a degree of order that is both impressive and unsettling to you. Nature has curves, only spirits deal in straight lines. After a few days of watching, your fear begins to compete with a powerful, gnawing curiosity. And hunger. You have neglected your gardens, your fishing lines. The whole village has been in a state of suspended animation. The big man decides a cautious approach is necessary. He gathers the strongest warriors, yourself among them. You paint your faces with the symbols of your clan. You take up your best spears and clubs. This is not for a raid. It is for protection, for a show of strength, to remind yourselves that you are men, not frightened children. You will approach the spirit place. Slowly you emerge from the tree line, a silent, colorful procession of human strength against the backdrop of the dull green machines. The ghost men stop what they are doing. They turn to look at you. They do not raise their thundersticks. They do not shout. They simply watch. One of them, who seems to be their leader, steps forward. He raises one of his hands, palm open. It is a gesture you understand. They gesture you understand. He is close enough now that you can see his face. He has taken off the hard shell from his head, revealing hair the color of rice. And his eyes are a pale, washed-out blue, like the sky on a hazy day. His skin is pinkish where the sun has touched it. He speaks, and the sounds are not human. They are a series of clicks, hissed, strange, flowing tones. He is not threatening. He is not threatening. He seems curious, and perhaps a little tired. One of your elders, a man known for his bravery, steps forward and speaks in your tongue. He welcomes the spirits, asks them their purpose, and offers them a gift of a prize yam, carried on a special ceremonial platter. The pale man looks at the yam, then at your elder. He smiles. It's a strange, tight-lipped expression, not the wide, open-mouthed smile of your people. He accepts the yam, nods, and then turns and gestures to one of his men. The man brings a small box. The leader opens it. Nestled in soft trapping are several long, perfectly uniform sticks. They are a deep, rich brown, and they smell sweet and strange. He offers one to your elder. This is the first exchange, the first crack in the wall of fear. Over the next few days, a strange sort of communication begins. It is a language of gestures, of pointing, of mimicry. They seem to have no interest in your village, your way of life. They are creating their own village, right here on the plain. They use incredible tools. They have axes that fell a small tree in a few swings, their blades flashing in the sun. They are made of that same hard, grain-on rock from the saltwater stories. They have saws that chew through wood with a high-pitched scream. They put up large, angular huts made of a strange, flapping skin, not thatch. They work all day, in the hottest sun, with a relentless, tireless energy. A peculiar detail you notice is their complete lack of individuality. They all wear the same green skins, eat the same food from the hard boxes, sleep in the same flapping huts. Among your people, a man's status is visible in his ornaments, his tattoos, the quality of his tools. These men have nothing. They are like ants in a colony. You wonder if they are even separate beings or just many parts of a single, greater entity. This seeming lack of color and individuality is one of the reasons you and your people identify them as spirits. In your cosmology, spirits and ancestors are often depicted as pale or lacking earthly color, having shed the vibrancy of life. The fact that these men arrive from the sky, a domain of spirits, and possess this otherworldly pallor is not a coincidence. It is a confirmation. They are the returned dead. This is a point of contention among future academics. Was the pale skin a spirit idea a pre-existing belief, or was it a new explanation created on the spot to make sense of the visitors? It's a chicken and egg problem of belief formation that scholars will debate for decades. For you, the evidence is overwhelming. They look like spirits. They act like spirits. They command the magic of spirits. Therefore, they are spirits. You begin to call them the men of John Frum. Why John Frum? The name is a mystery. Perhaps one of them, when asked his name, said John, from America, and the sounds got blended together in your ears. Or maybe the name came to one of the elders in a dream. Whatever its origin, the name sticks. John Frum. He is not a single person, but the name for all of them, for the powerful spirit entity they represent. And you are about to discover the true nature of their magic. It is not just in their tools on their sky canoes. It is in the very food they eat. The relationship settles into a strange, cautious routine. You and your people watch from a respectful distance as the men of John Frum build their world of straight lines and green boxes. They seem to have an endless supply of everything. They never need to go to the garden, never need to fish, never need to hunt. Everything they need, all of their sustenance, comes out of the hard-shelled containers they brought with them from the sky. One day one of the ghost men is eating. He is sitting on a crate in the shade of a sky beast's wing. He is using a small, shiny metal tool to scoop a soft, brown substance out of a small, round metal container. The container has a brightly colored skin wrapped around it, a skin covered in the same kind of geometric symbols that are on the sky beasts. The man sees you watching, your eyes wide with curiosity. He smiles his tight, strange smile, finishes his meal, and then, instead of putting the empty container back in a box, he tosses it casually onto a growing pile of refuse. Later, when the men are busy at the far end of their camp, your courage overcomes your fear. You dart out from the trees and snatch the container from the pile. It is a marvel. It is a marvel. It's impossibly light yet strong. The metal is thin, and you can see the perfect, seamless circle of its opening. The colored skin is still attached. You run your fingers over it. It is smoother than any leaf, more perfect than any shell. You bring it back to the village, and it becomes an object of immense fascination. The elders pass it around, tapping it, smelling it. It still holds the faint, sweet, and utterly alien scent of the food it once contained. This is the beginning of the cargo. The trickle that will soon become a flood. As the days turn into weeks, the pile of refuse from the ghost men's camp grows. It is a treasure trove. There are more of the metal food skins, which you call tins. There are glass bottles, so clear you can see the world through them, yet harder than any stone. There are empty wooden crates, perfectly made with thin planks of a pale, smooth wood you've never seen, a fabric so finely woven it feels like a spider's web, yet so strong you cannot tear it with your hands. And then you taste it. I ghost man, perhaps taking pity on the wide-eyed children who watch him eat every day, offers one of them a biscuit. It's a hard, dry, square thing. The child takes it hesitantly, sniffs it, and then takes a tiny bite. His eyes go wide. He devours the rest in seconds. Soon, small offerings become more common. A piece of chocolate, intensely sweet and dark. A lump of white, crystalline powder that dissolves in water and tastes like pure, concentrated sweetness sugar. And the greatest treasure of all, rice. Poured from a cloth sack, it consists of 1,000,000 tiny white grains, which, when boiled, swell up into a soft, satisfying food that fills the belly in a way that even yams cannot. But the most magical food of all comes in the tins. One of the ghost men shows you how to open one using one of his special metal keys. Inside is meat, not the tough, stringy meat of a wild pig that you have to chew for an hour, but a soft, pinkish meat packed in its own savory jelly that melts in your mouth. You have no name for this animal. It is the food of the gods. It requires no hunting, no cooking over a fire for hours. The magic is sealed inside the metal skin. This is a revolution for your stomach, but a catastrophe for your worldview. For your entire existence, the connection between work and food has been absolute, unbreakable. You work the soil, you get yams. You brave the sea, you get fish. You perform the rituals correctly, the ancestors are pleased and your efforts are rewarded. Now, here is food that requires no work. It simply appears. The ghost men do their strange rituals marching, saluting, talking into the voice boxes, and the sky beasts bring them an endless supply of this heavenly cargo. Historians will call this the demonstration effect, the rapid, destabilizing introduction of a vastly superior material culture to a less complex one. They'll argue about the nutritional impact, the way processed foods disrupted your traditional diet. But the deepest impact isn't on your body, it's on your soul. Your own food, the yams you spent months cultivating, the pigs you raised with such care, suddenly seems lesser. The immense labor you expend feels inefficient, almost foolish, compared to the effortless abundance of the men of John Frum. The manna of their food is simply stronger. It tastes of the sky, and it creates a deep, profound hunger, not just for the food itself, but for the secret of its origin. How do you get it? What is the ritual? What is the magic word that makes the metal skins appear? Your days are now spent in devoted observation. You have become a student of the ghost men, an anthropologist of the divine. You watch their every move, trying to decipher the logic behind their actions, convinced that their strange behaviors are the rituals that unlock the flow of cargo. What you see is baffling, a series of seemingly pointless, repetitive acts performed with the utmost seriousness. Every morning at the exact moment the sun clears the eastern ridge, a piercing sound cuts through the air, a high-pitched wail from a small brass-colored horn. At this signal, all the men of John Frum emerge from their flapping huts. They form themselves into a perfect square, a block of green bodies. They stand unnaturally still, their arms stiff at their sides, their eyes staring straight ahead. One of them, the leader, then shouts a series of harsh barking commands. At each command, the men move as one. They lift their legs in perfect unison, they swing their arms at the same angle, they turn their heads with a single, sharp snap. They march, back and forth, on the flat, dusty ground they have cleared. They turn, they stop, they start again. To you, it looks like a strange, rigid dance, a performance with no music and no joy. But they do it every single day, without fail. This, you conclude, must be a very important ceremony. Then there is the ritual of the colored cloth. In the center of their camp stands a tall, perfectly straight wooden pole, taller than any tree you have ever felled. Every morning, after the marching dance, two of the men approach the pole. They carry a folded piece of cloth, covered in a pattern of red, white, and blue stripes and white stars. They attach it to a long piece of rope, and with great solemnity, they pull on the rope, raising the cloth to the very top of the pole. As it reaches the summit and unfurls in the morning breeze, all the other men turn to face it. They raise one hand to their foreheads in a strange, flat gesture, a salute. They stand like that, frozen, for a long moment, staring at the cloth as if it were a powerful ancestor. Then, just as the sun sets, they perform the ritual in reverse, carefully lowering the cloth, folding it with precise, geometric movements, and storing it away for the night. This colored cloth, you reason, must be their most sacred object, a powerful totem that connects them to the sky spirits. You see other, smaller rituals everywhere. The men often carry small, flat pieces of stiff paper. They will stare intently at these papers, sometimes making marks on them with a small, black stick. They trade these papers back and forth with great seriousness. Are these magical spells? Written messages from the spirit world. You see them sitting for hours, taking their thunder sticks apart into many small, greasy pieces, and then putting them back together again. Is this an act of consecration, of imbuing the sticks with mana? Their entire world seems to be governed by a force you cannot see, time. They live by the small, circular devices on their wrists. A bell will ring, and they will all stop what they are doing and go to eat. The bell rings again, and they go back to work. Their lives are not governed by the sun or the seasons, but by the relentless, invisible ticking of this wrist magic. It is a form of discipline, of control, that is utterly alien to your own sense of flowing, cyclical time. This meticulous observation of unmilitary behavior is a hallmark of the classic cargo cults, and it leads to one of the most enduring debates among sociologists and historians. Were these imitations a form of magical thinking, a genuine belief that performing the ritual would magically produce the result? Or was it a more rational, if mistaken, attempt at social and political mimicry? Some argue that your people, seeing the power and organization of the ghost men, were trying to adopt their social structures in the hope that this would make them similarly powerful. You were not just imitating their magic, you were trying to become them. For you, sitting in the bushes, the distinction is blurry. Power is magic, organization is ritual. The result, the cargo, is the proof that it all works. One of the strangest rituals of all involves the leader. He will sometimes sit alone in a small hut, wearing a special device over his ears, and he will speak into a black object connected to a box by a wire. He speaks for a long time, sometimes shouting into the empty air. Then he will listen, nodding his head as if someone invisible is speaking back. This is perhaps the most powerful magic of all. He is communicating directly with the spirit world, with the great source of the cargo. You watch and you learn. You memorize the sounds he makes, the way he holds the black object, the way he sits. Every detail, no matter how small, must be a crucial part of the spell. You are not just seeing strange behaviors. You are witnessing the liturgy of a new and unimaginably powerful religion. Of all the small magics the ghost men possess, the one that captivates you most is the one they carry in their pockets. It is the magic of instant fire. You have seen it happen a dozen times, and it never fails to steal your breath. A man of John Frum will reach into his pocket and pull out a small, flat packet. He opens it, slides out a thin sliver of wood with a colored tip, and then, with a flick of his thumbnail against the side of the packet, the stick bursts into flame. Just like that. A bright, hot, perfect flame born from nothing but a single, casual movement. He uses this tiny, tame star to light the end of a white paper tube, which he puts in his mouth. He breathes in, and the other end of the tube glows red, a plume of fragrant smoke curling into the air. This smoking ritual is clearly a form of communion, a way of breathing in the power of the spirits, but it is the creation of the fire itself that leaves you speechless. Your own method of making fire is a sacred, laborious act. It requires the right wood, immense physical effort with the fire plow, patience, and the collective focus of the village. It is a struggle, a coaxing of life out of resistant material. These men, they create it with the gesture of utter indifference. They make a fire, use it for a moment to light their smoke stick, and then they extinguish it, dropping the spent fire stick to the ground without a second thought. They treat this incredible power, this divine spark, as if it is nothing. The sheer wastefulness of their magic is as stunning as the magic itself. One day, you find a discarded packet, a matchbook. It is a small piece of folded cardboard with the ghost men's strange symbols printed on it. Inside, a few of the little fire sticks remain. With trembling hands, you take it back to the most secret place you know, a small clearing deep in the jungle. You pull out one of the sticks. You look at its reddish-brown tip. You remember the exact motion you have seen them make, that quick, scraping flit. You try to replicate it. You hold the stick and scrape the tip against the rough, dark strip on the side of the packet. Nothing happens. You try again, pressing harder. Still nothing. You feel a surge of disappointment. Perhaps the magic only works for them. Perhaps you lack the honor. Perhaps you lack the honor. You are about to give up, but you try one last time. This time with a fast, sharp, aggressive motion. Decisive motion. You cry out, dropping it in shock. It lands on a dry leaf, which instantly curls, blackens, and begins to smolder. You have done it. You have stolen the fire of the gods. This small, almost trivial piece of technology, a friction match, represents a conceptual leap you can barely process. For you, fire is a process, a transformation of energy through work. For them, it is an object. It is a thing you can hold in your hand, a property stored inside a tiny piece of wood, waiting to be released. This is a recurring theme with all their cargo. Their food is not the result of a harvest, it's an object in a tin. Their light at night comes not from a burning torch, but from a glass bulb that glows without flame or smoke when they touch a button. They have managed to capture processes fire, growth, light, and turn them into stable, portable things. Historians will later reflect on this as a fundamental difference between an oral, traditional society and a technological, industrial one. Your world is one of flows, of cycles, of dynamic processes. Their world is one of objects, of discrete, manufactured items that seem to exist outside of any natural cycle. The friction match is a perfect, pocket-sized example of this profound philosophical divide. You manage to light another match. and this time you hold onto it, watching the small flame dance on the end of the stick. It is a terrifying and exhilarating feeling. You hold in your hand a power that, until now, was reserved for lightning strikes and the most potent magic men. This little stick contains more immediate, accessible power than the strongest warrior in your village. You do not show it to anyone. This is a secret, a personal discovery. You feel a sense of awe, but also a sliver of something new, a feeling that perhaps this magic is not entirely beyond your grasp. The ghost man or the source. Yes, but the magic itself, the cargo, has a power all its own. If you can learn the right gesture to create fire, what other gestures, what other rituals could you learn? The matchbook in your pocket feels incredibly heavy. I see it of an idea that will soon grow to consume the entire forest of your old beliefs. The mystery of the leaders speaking into the black object deepens. It becomes a central obsession. He goes it at the same time every day. In the early afternoon when the heat is at its most oppressive, he goes into the small, square hut made of green canvas, a hut filled with strange boxes covered in knobs and glowing lights, and he performs his ritual. You and a few others have found a spot in the thick undergrowth, close enough to watch and listen without being seen. From your hiding place, you can hear his voice clearly. It is distorted, made thin and sharp by the black object he holds to his mouth. He uses a specific set of words, repeated over and over again. He says things that sound like over, Roger, come in, base. These are not words, they are incantations, magical phrases that open a channel to the spirit world. After speaking the incantations, he will often fall silent, pressing the other part of the device, a round cup, to his ear. He will listen intently, his expression serious, sometimes nodding, sometimes shaking his head. Then you hear it, a faint, crackling, metallic sound. It is a voice. But there is no one else in the hut. The voice is disembodied, coming from a box on the table. It speaks the same strange, rhythmic language as the leader. It sounds like a ghost, a spirit whispering across a great distance. Your blood runs cold. This is the ultimate proof. The men of John Frum are not just powerful, they are messengers. They are in direct, two-way communication with the source of all the cargo. You try to make sense of it within your own worldview. The most powerful sorcerers in your clan, the men who can speak with the ancestors, must go into a deep trance. They must perform complex rituals with sacred leaves and stones, and even then, the messages they receive are often cryptic, delivered in dreams or visions. It is an uncertain, difficult process. But this is different. It is clear. It is reliable. It is a technology of communications so far beyond your own that it might as well be the thoughts of a god. The box is a sacred oracle, a direct line to the divine. One afternoon, a young, curious boy from your village, braver and more foolish than the rest, creeps closer to the camp than anyone has dared. He gets right up to the outside of the voice box hut. The leader is inside, speaking his incantations. The boy sees another one of the men, a younger one, walking nearby with a voice box of his own, a smaller portable version. The boy watches as the leader inside the hut speaks, and at the exact same moment, the disembodied voice crackles out of the box in the other man's hand. The connection is instant. The magic bridges the space between them. The boy scrambles back to the village, his eyes wide with the revelation. The voices are not just coming from the spirit world. They are going between the men of John Frum. They can sever their own voices from their bodies and send them through the air to one another. It is a power you cannot comprehend. To you, a voice is a part of a person, as tied to their body as their hands or their feet. The idea of it traveling on its own is the stuff of the deepest magic. Years later, engineers and physicists will try to explain the principles of radio waves, of transmitters and receivers, of electromagnetism. They will draw diagrams of sine waves and antennas. These explanations will hold no power for you. The box that speaks with the human voice is a captured spirit. The wire that connects it to the pole is the tether that keeps the spirit from flying away. The strange, crackling sounds that accompany the voice are the sounds of the spirit world itself, the static between realities. This observation is crucial. It solidifies a core belief that will shape everything that comes next. The cargo, the tins, the tools, the fire sticks does not originate with the men of John Frum. They are not the creators of it. They are merely the recipients. They are the priests who know the correct rituals to summon it. They are the operators of the sacred voice boxes that place the orders with the gods, or the ancestors. The real source of the cargo is somewhere else, in the spirit world in the sky, and if the men of John Frum can learn the rituals to summon it, then perhaps you can too. The question is no longer who these men are. The question is now how. How do they do it? The marching, the flag raising, the speaking into the box, it all starts to click into place. It is not a series of random behaviors. It is a single, complex, powerful ceremony, a liturgy. And you have been watching it, studying it, memorizing it, for weeks. You are beginning to feel that you understand its grammar, its syntax. You are on the verge of cracking the code. And then, the heavens open. The trickle of cargo becomes a deluge. More of the sky beasts arrive, their roars now a familiar, almost comforting sound. They land on the long, flat strip the ghost men have cleared, and from their bellies pour forth an avalanche of wonders. Crates upon crates are unloaded, stacked into mountains of geometric perfection. The men of John Frum seem to be preparing for something, some great event or ceremony. Their numbers swell. Soon there are hundreds of them, all identical in their green skins, all marching in unison, all speaking into the magical voice boxes. Their camp expands, becoming a small city of canvas huts and strange, humming machines that create light even in the darkest of nights. And with them comes a generosity, a casual overflowing of their abundance that transforms your life completely. They need help. They need labor to clear more land, to build more of their strange structures. They do not ask for it in the way a big man would, by creating a social obligation. They pay for it. At the end of a day's work, a ghost man will give you not a promise of a future favor, but an immediate, tangible reward. He might give you a tin of spam, or a whole packet of the magical smoke sticks, or a whole packet of the magical smoke sticks, or a most coveted of all, a bag of the tiny white rice grained. Suddenly the old rhythms of life are shattered. Why spend a week painstakingly carving a new digging stick when the ghost men will lend you a shovel made of their magical metal, a tool that can do the work of 10 men in a fraction of the time? Why spend a whole day fishing on the reef for a handful of small fish, when an hour of light work for John Frum will earn you a tin of meat that can feed your whole family? The yam gardens are neglected. The outrigger canoes sit on the beach, their hulls drying uncracking in the sun. The ancient complex system of exchange, of bride prices and ceremonial feasts built on pigs and shells, begins to crumble. What is a prize boar with circular tusks, the product of a decade of careful husbandry, next to a crate of tinned beef? The old wealth feels slow, heavy, and inefficient. The new wealth is instant, portable, and delicious. This is a golden age. There is no hunger. There is no want. The cargo is everywhere. You learn to use their tools. You wear their cast-off clothing, a pair of heavy black boots, a soft cotton shirt as items of immense prestige. You build your huts now with nails you scavenged, marveling at how these small metal spikes can bind wood together with a strength your vine lashings could never achieve. You have knives made from sharpened steel, and they hold an edge for months, unlike your brittle obsidian flakes which need constant rain-apping. You are living in a dream, a utopia delivered from the sky. The old men and the traditional big men watch this transformation with a deep sense of unease. Their authority, built on the careful management of the old wealth, is eroding. The young men are no longer as interested in the stories of the ancestors or the proper way to build a yam house. They are interested in the ways of John Frum. They learn a few words of his strange language, words like hello, okay, and tobacco. They try to imitate the way the ghost men walk, their confident, purposeful stride. The profound social and economic disruption you are experiencing is a subject of intense study for future economists and sociologists. Some will view it through the lens of dependency theory, arguing that this sudden influx of free goods created a cargo-based economy that was unsustainable and ultimately destructive to your self-sufficiency. Others will argue that it was a rational response to a new reality, an attempt by your people to rapidly modernize and improve their material conditions. There is still no clear consensus on whether this period was a blessing or a curse. For you living in it, it is simply miraculous. It is the fulfillment of a promise you never knew had been made. You are living in the time of plenty, the mythical age the old stories sometimes spoke of, when the ancestors provided for all without the need for work. You have no reason to believe it will ever end. The sky beasts come and go in a constant procession. The mountains of cargo are replenished as quickly as they are used. The men of John Frum seem as permanent as the mountains, their magic as reliable as the sunrise. You have entered a new covenant with the world. The old spirits of the forest and the sea seem quiet now, their power diminished, their voices drowned out by the roar of the engines and the crackle of the voice boxes. There is only one God now, the God of the sky, and his name is John Frum. The change is slow at first, almost imperceptible. It begins not with a bang, but with a growing quiet. One day, you notice that the sky has been silent for longer than usual. The familiar, comforting roar of the sky beasts, which had become the new rhythm of your days, is absent. You look up, scanning the empty blue, a flicker of unease in your gut. It is probably nothing. A brief pause in the flow of magic, but the silence stretches. Days turn into a week, no new sky beasts arrive. The mountains of green boxes on the plain are no longer being replenished. In fact, they are shrinking. The men of John Frum are loading their cargo back into the bellies of the few remaining sky beasts. A new kind of activity takes hold of their camp. They are not building anymore. They are dismantling. The canvas huts are taken down, folded into neat squares. The humming machines that made light are silenced. Their wires coiled up. A deep and profound anxiety begins to ripple through your village. The flow of goods, which had seemed so effortless and infinite, has slowed to a trickle. The ghost men are no longer so generous with their tins of meat and bags of rice. They are rationing, guarding their supplies. The casual work you did for them has dried up. There is nothing more to build. You watch as one of the great sky beasts is filled to bursting with boxes and men. Its belly is sealed, and with a final, deafening roar, it lifts itself from the earth, circles the island once as if in farewell, and then shrinks into the distance, heading back to the spirit world. A few days later, another one follows. The feeling in your community is one of growing panic. What is happening? Have you done something to anger them? Did someone break a taboo? Did you not show enough reverence for the cargo? The elders gather, their faces etched with worry. They try to interpret the signs. Perhaps this is just a temporary phase, a test of your faith. Perhaps the spirits are merely relocating to another part of the island, or to another island altogether. No one wants to voice the most terrifying possibility, that they are leaving for good. The number of ghost men on the plain dwindles until only a small handful remain. They are like the last embers of a dying fire. The once bustling camp is now a ghost town of empty spaces and discarded remnants. The straight lines of their world are becoming blurred, softened by the encroaching jungle. The vine has already begun to snake its way up the sacred flagpole. The last sky beast sits on the plain waiting. The last of the men of John Frum load the last of their important boxes. One of them, a man you vaguely recognized, the one who sometimes smiled, walks over to the edge of the camp where you and your people are gathered, a silent, fearful crowd. He does not speak. He simply empties a sack onto the ground. It is filled with the last of their treasures, a few tins of meat, some packets of smoked sticks, a handful of sugar cubes. It is not payment. It feels like a final, pitying gift. He gives a sad, tight-lipped smile, turns, and walks away without looking back. He climbs the ramp into the belly of the beast. The ramp is raised, the door sealed. You watch, your heart a cold stone in your chest, as the engines begin their roar one last time. The wind from its giant, spinning wings flattens the grass and whips at your face. It lifts from the ground, hovers for a moment, and then it is gone. The silence it leaves behind is not the peaceful silence of your ancestors. It is a dead silence, a hollow, ringing emptiness that is heavier and more terrifying than the loudest roar. You stand there, staring at the empty sky, for a long, long time. The golden age is over. The golden age is over. The gods have left. The magic has gone out of the world, and you have no idea why. This departure, which historians will identify as the end of World War II and the subsequent closure of temporary military bases across the Pacific, is for you a profound religious crisis. It's a moment of theological rupture. If your worldview had been shattered by their arrival, it is now shattered again by their departure. The question that hangs in the silent, humid air is almost too terrible to contemplate. What did we do wrong? You walk through the abandoned camp. It feels like a sacred place, a graveyard of miracles. The ground is littered with the ghosts of the cargo, a rusted tin can, its bright paper skin faded and peeling, a single, mud-caked boot with its laces gone, a cracked shard of a glass bottle, glinting a dull green in the sunlight. Each object is a relic, a painful reminder of the time of plenty. The great, flat strip they carved from the earth is still there, an ugly, pale scar across the land. The jungle, however, is already beginning to reclaim it. Small weeds are pushing up through the packed dirt. The sharp, straight lines of the camp are starting to soften, to fray at the edges. In a generation, if left alone, this place would be almost entirely swallowed by the green tide, leaving only a few strange, rust-colored stains in the soil. But you cannot leave it alone. The memory is too strong, the loss too acute. The silence that followed their departure has stretched into weeks, then months. The sky remains stubbornly, cruelly empty. The last of the gifted cargo has long been consumed. The magic tins are gone. The sweet, white sugar is a distant memory on the tongue. And a new, unfamiliar feeling has crept back into your village. Hunger. Not starvation, not yet. But the gnawing emptiness in the belly that comes from a diet of foraged roots and the few fish you can catch in the depleted lagoon. The yam gardens, neglected for so long, are overgrown with weeds, their soil leached of its nutrients. It will take a full season of back-breaking work to bring them back to life, to restore the old rhythms. But the work feels pointless, primitive. Your stone adze, once a two love miracles, now feels clumsy and pathetic in your hand. Your muscles, softened by a year of light labor and rich food, ache with the effort of felling even a small tree. A profound lethargy, a kind of collective depression, has settled over your people. There is no joy. The young men who once walked with a confident swagger, imitating the ghost men, now sit idly in the shade, their eyes vacant, staring at the empty sky. The old stories of the ancestors are told again around the fire, but they sound hollow. Their magic weakened, faded compared to the roaring power of the sky beasts. Your world has been shown a glimpse of heaven, and then cast out. This period of social collapse and psychological distress following the withdrawal of the Allied forces is a well-documented phenomenon. Anthropologists will give it clinical names like post-contact demoralization. They'll write papers about the breakdown of traditional social structures, the loss of purpose, the crisis of meaning. Some will argue that your people were the victims of a careless, unintentional cultural assault. Left to drift in a world they no longer understood, will suggest that this crisis was a necessary, if painful, catalyst for change, forcing a confrontation with a wider world that could no longer be ignored. For you, it is simply a time of deep spiritual darkness. You have lost your way. The old gods, the spirits of the mountain and the sea, seem to have abandoned you. Or perhaps they weren't ever as powerful as you believed. The new god, John Frum, has also forsaken you, for reasons you cannot comprehend. You are spiritually orphaned, caught between two worlds belonging to neither. You find yourself drawn back to the abandoned camp again and again, walking the ghostly outlines of the canvas huts, touching the rotting wood of the sacred flagpole. You are looking for answers, for a sign. Why did they come? Why did they come? Why did they choose you? And most importantly, why did they leave? The silence of the place offers no answers. It only echoes the silence in the sky. The despair is so deep that it begins to feel like a physical illness. The birth rate in the village drops. People fall sick with a strange listlessness that no traditional medicine can cure. It is as if the mana, the life force of your entire people, is draining away, seeping into the barren earth of the landing strip. You are living in the silence, in the emptiness, in the great and terrible absence of the cargo. That if something does not change, your world will simply fade to grey and die. The silence becomes a character in your story. It is not just an absence of sound, it is a presence. It sits with you in the heat of the day. It is in the anxious, furtive glances your family exchanges when the communal food pot is only half full. It is in the way that children no longer play with noisy abandon, but huddle in quiet, listless groups. The silence is a weight, pressing down on your shoulders, squeezing the hope from your hold. With the cargo gone, the old ways of life are forced to return, but they come back broken, misshapen. You cull the weeds, you turn the soil with your fire-hardened digging stick. The work is harder than you remember, your body's memory of the steel shovel a constant, taunting companion. As you work, you find a small, rusted piece of metal in the dirt hay buckle from a ghost man's belt. You stop and stare at it, this relic of a better time, and the contrast between its perfect, manufactured form and the rough, organic world in your hands is almost too much to bear. The social fabric of your will is unraveling. The big man, his authority already weakened during the time of plenty, finds he has nothing left to give away. His yam houses are nearly empty. His prize pigs have been eaten. The complex web of obligations and debts that held your society together has dissolved. In its place, arguments flare up over the smallest things: a shared fishing line, the ownership of a scavenged scrap of canvas. You see this fragmentation in the tools themselves. During the Golden Age, you had access to steel axes. A single man could clear a patch of jungle in a day. Now, you are back to your stone adzes, but many of the best stones have been lost or discarded, and the skill of making new ones has grown rusty. The communal canoe, the one that required the whole village to work together to fell the tree and hollow the log, has fallen into disrepair. No one has the energy or the collective will to build a new one. Your world has shrunk. The saltwater pathways to other islands are closed. You are more isolated now than you have ever been. This profound sense of loss, this anomie, as sociologists would call it, is a difficult thing for outsiders to grasp. They might see it in practical terms: a decline in agricultural output, a breakdown of political structures. But for you, it is a spiritual crisis. The world used to make sense. It operated on a clear and ancient principle: correct ritual leads to abundance. You honored the ancestors, you tended the yams, and the world provided. But the men of Frum demonstrated a different, infinitely more powerful logic. Their rituals, the marching, the flag waving, the speaking into boxes, brought an abundance you could never have dreamed of. Now both systems seem to have failed. The old rituals feel weak and ineffective. The new rituals are gone. You are trapped in a theological vacuum. You look at your father, his face etched with confusion. He knows the chants to make the yams grow, the dances to bring the fish to the reef. But he saw the magic of the tins. He saw that the ghost men did none of these things, and yet they feasted. How can he teach you the old ways with conviction when he himself has seen them rendered obsolete? The most puzzling and painful aspect of it all is the sheer, baffling indifference of it. If the spirits of your ancestors were angry, they would send a storm, an earthquake, a sickness. There would be a reason, a transgression you could identify and atone for. But the departure of Frum felt like nothing. It was not an act of forgetting. There was not an act of forgetting. They simply packed up and left, as if you never mattered. As if this entire island was just a temporary stopping place of no real consequence. To be punished by a god is one thing, to be ignored is far worse. It suggests that you are not even important enough to be judged. This feeling of cosmic insignificance is perhaps the heaviest part of the silence. You sit on the beach, watching the sun set, the sky ablaze with orange purple. It is beautiful, but it is an empty beauty. It is the beauty of a world that no longer seems to care whether you are in it or not. The silence is the sound of your own irrelevance. The despair cannot last forever. Survival is a powerful instinct. As the hunger deepens and the social friction worsens, a new energy begins to stir, born not of hope, but of desperation. The silence must be broken. Something must be done. The elders, who had lost much of their influence, see their moment. They call for a great council, a gathering of all the clans in your part of the island. It is an ancient tradition reserved for times of the gravest crisis, war, famine, or a plague. For the first time in over a year, a sense of purpose flickers back into the community. Messengers are sent to the neighboring villages. Families travel for days along the overgrown jungle paths. The meeting takes place in the central clearing of your village, the same place where you once listened to the old stories around the fire. But this time, the mood is different. It is not comfort you seek, but answers. The most respected elders and the remaining big men sit in the center, their faces grim. The debate begins, as it always does, with the oldest and most respected man. He stands, his voice thin and reedy, but carrying the weight of his years. He speaks of the old ways. He argues that the coming of John Frum was a great test, a spiritual sickness sent to tempt you away from the ancestors. The cargo, he says, was a poison that looked like a gift. It made you lazy, disrespectful, forgetful. The ancestors saw this and were displeased. John Frum was a powerful, but ultimately malevolent spirit. The only way forward, he insists, is to purge yourselves of the memory of the cargo, to burn the last of the relics, to tear down the abandoned camp, and to return wholeheartedly to the ancient rituals. To appease the ancestors, to beg their forgiveness, to rebuild the yam houses and the sacred altars. There is a murmur of agreement from some of the other old men. It is a comforting thought, a return to a world they understood. But then a younger man stands to speak. He is one of the men who worked most closely with the ghost men, who learned a few of their words, who mastered the use of their steel tools. He is dismissive of the old ways. The ancestors did not bring us tins of meat, he says, his voice ringing with the frustration you all feel. Their magic is small. The magic of John Frum is strong. He showed us a better way. We saw it with our own eyes. His departure was not a punishment from our ancestors. It was a punishment from him. This is the heart of the matter, the great theological schism that divides the council. Was John Frum a demon to be exorcised or a god to be appeased? He left because we failed him, the young man continues, his voice rising with passion. We did not understand his rituals. We were merely laborers watching from the outside. We enjoyed the cargo, but we did not participate in the ceremonies that summoned it. We were not worthy. The question is not how we go back. The question is, how do we bring them back? The clearing is silent. He has articulated the thought that has been lurking in the back of everyone's mind. The terrifying, audacious, brilliant idea. If the rituals of John Frum brought the cargo once, they can bring it again. This is a moment that historians of religion dream of capturing. It is the birth of a new faith, a conscious decision to abandon one set of gods for another, or rather, to reinterpret the new gods through the logic of the old. The core principle remains the same: ritual creates reality. If the old rituals for yams and fish have been superseded, then it is time to adopt the new, more powerful rituals for spam and steel. The debate rages for hours, for days. Voices grow hoarse, tempers flare. It is a battle for the soul of your people, but the argument of the young man, the argument of the cargo, is too powerful. The memory of the time of plenty is too sweet, the misery of the present too bitter. The logic is inescapable. You have seen the cause and the effect. You have seen the marching and the raising of the colored cloth, and you have seen the sky beasts ascend. The connection is as clear as the link between planting a seed and harvesting a yam. Slowly, painstakingly, a consensus is reached. The old ways are not to be discarded entirely, but they must be updated. The ancestors are still important, but they are now junior spirits in a larger pantheon, ruled over by the great sky god John Frum. The path forward is clear. You must master his rituals. You must perform his ceremonies with perfect faith and precision. You must show him that you are no longer just ignorant observers, but true believers. You must build a place for him to land. The decision of the council spreads like a wildfire of purpose through the listless villages. For the first time since the departure, there is a plan, there is a path. The heavy blanket of despair begins to lift, replaced by a nervous, focused energy. The great work is about to begin. You and the other men return to the abandoned camp, but you do not come as scavengers or mourners. You come as restorers, as acolytes preparing a sacred site. Your mission is to recreate the world of John Frum, to build a perfect replica of the conditions that existed when the cargo was flowing. Your reasoning is simple and powerful. If you make the world look exactly as it did when the gods were here, then surely they will see it from the sky and be compelled to return. The first and most important task is to rebuild the altar where the ghost men performed their most important ritual, the voice box hut. You examine the faint rectangular outline in the dirt where the canvas hut once stood. With reverent care, you and the others begin to construct a new hut in its place. You use bamboo for the frame and woven coconut fronds for the walls, the same materials you use for your own homes. The shape, however, is not your traditional oval, uncompromising square, just like this. Inside, you build a table from a smooth plank of wood. On the table, you place the most sacred object, the voice box itself. No one managed to save one of the real ones, of course, so you make one. A man in your village known for his skill in carving ceremonial masks is given the task. He takes a block of soft wood and, working from memory, meticulously carves a replica of the radio. He carves the box, the handset, the coiled wire that connects them. He uses crushed lime to paint the strange symbols he remembers seeing on its surface. When it is finished, it is a masterpiece of imitation. It looks from a distance exactly like the real thing. It is a hollow piece of wood, of course. But you believe that with the right faith, the right ritual, a spirit will enter it and make it speak. Next, you turn your attention to the sacred pole. The original has rotted and fallen. You select the straightest, tallest tree you can find in the forest. It takes dozens of men a full day to fell it and drag it to the camp. You strip its bark, smooth its surface, and with immense effort, you raise it in the exact spot where the old one stood. But what of the colored cloth? The holy flag? The women of the village take on this task. They weave a large mat from hibiscus fibers. They do not have the right colors, the brilliant reds and blues of the original, so they use the dyes they have: brown from mangrove bark, yellow from turmeric root, and the natural off-white of the fibers. They do not know the meaning of the stars and stripes, so they weave a pattern that seems right, a geometric design that captures the feeling, the essence of the original cloth's power. This act of imitation of recreating advanced technology using Stone Age materials is the defining visual of the cargo cult. Future observers will see it as naive, even pathetic. But there is a deep and consistent logic at work. You are not trying to build a functioning radio. You are trying to build a spiritually effective one. You are creating a vessel for the mona to inhabit. The exact material is less important than the correctness of the fall, the intensity of the belief that powers the ritual. The academic world will argue for years over the meaning of this ritualistic imitation. Is it a cargo cultist version of sympathetic magic, the ancient belief that like produces like? If you create a model of the thing you desire, the real thing will be drawn to it. Or is it more of a cargo cultist prayer, a physical manifestation of your requests to the gods? A three-dimensional letter to the heavens saying, "We are ready for your return." The work continues. You clear the landing strip, pulling up the weeds, smoothing the earth until it is a long, flat, welcoming runway for the sky beasts. You build watches along the edges, just like the ones the ghost men had, weaving them from bamboo and thatch. You and your friends, who once watched the men of John from the shadows, are now the ones in the open, the masters of this sacred space. You are no longer just waiting for something to happen. You are actively participating in the act of creation. You are building a church, and its architecture is a memory of a military airbase. With the sacred sites reconstructed, the physical stage is set. But a stage needs actors, and a ritual needs a director. The old elders and big men, with their knowledge of yums and ancestors, are not equipped to lead this new ceremony. A new kind of leader is needed, and in this time of spiritual crisis and fervent hope he emerges. He is not a man from a powerful lineage. He is a quiet, intense man who, during the time of John Frum, was one of the most diligent observers. While others were content to simply enjoy the cargo he was studying, he spent countless hours at the edge of the jungle, memorizing the ghost men's movements, the sounds of their incantations, the rhythms of their day. One evening, as the village gathers, he steps into the firelight. He is trembling, his eyes wide, as if seeing something the rest of you cannot. He tells you he has had a vision. In a dream, one of the men of John from perhaps John from himself appeared to him. The spirit was not angry, but sad. He told the man that the cargo had stopped because the people had lost the true path. They had received the gifts but had not understood the work. The spirit then gave him, the chosen one, a series of instructions, a sacred mandate to lead the people back to the proper way. He is the prophet. His authority comes not from bloodline or wealth, but from this direct personal revelation. He is the bridge between your world and the world of the cargo. He speaks with a new, unshakable confidence that is mesmerizing. In a community adrift in doubt, his certainty is an anchor. The prophet begins to preach, to interpret. He takes all the fragmented observations you have all made and weaves them into a coherent and compelling theology. The marching, he explains, was not a pointless exercise. It was a form of ritual discipline, a way of aligning the body and spirit to create a powerful, unified will that called down the sky beasts. The saluting of the colored cloth was an act of worship, of pledging loyalty to the great sky spirit, who was the source of all cargo. He has an answer for everything. Why did the ghost men wear the same green skins? Because this uniformity removed the sin of individual pride and jealousy, allowing the honor to flow through the group without obstruction. Why did they live by the ticking wrist magic? Because the spirits of the cargo operate on a precise schedule, and the rituals must be performed at the exact, correct moment. His most powerful revelations concern the nature of the cargo itself. He preaches that the cargo is not made by the ghost men. It is created by your own ancestors, in the spirit world. The ancestors have always wanted to send you these wonderful things, but you, in your ignorance, did not know how to receive them. The ghost men, he argues, were selfish. They came and intercepted the cargo that was rightfully yours. They used their knowledge of the rituals to divert the flow of goods to themselves. Their departure was not an abandonment but an opportunity. Now, with them gone, if you perform the rituals correctly, the cargo will finally come directly to its intended recipients, you. This is a theological masterstroke. It is a brilliant and empowering twist that will become a central tenet of many cargo cults. It re-centers your people in the cosmic narrative. You are not beggars, hoping for scraps from a foreign god. You are the rightful heirs to a vast spiritual inheritance, temporarily blocked from you by selfish outsiders. This idea is incredibly potent. It transforms your feelings of inferiority and abandonment into a sense of righteous purpose. The work you are doing is not just an act of imitation, it is an act of liberation. Of course, historians and sociologists will debate the true nature of these prophets. Were they cynical opportunists using the crisis to seize power? Or were they genuine visionaries, charismatic leaders who truly believed their own revelations? Were they experiencing profound psychological states, trances, and visions brought on by the stress of cultural collapse? The answer is likely as complex as the men themselves, a mixture of genuine belief, political savvy, and a deep, intuitive understanding of their people's spiritual needs. Under the prophet's guidance, the new religion takes shape. It is a syncretic faith, a blend of the old and the new. You still respect the ancestors, but now you see them working in a celestial factory, welding together tins of spam and packing crates of cigarettes. The prophet organizes the people, assigns roles, and begins to teach the sacred liturgy of John Frum. The time of waiting is over. The prophet's first decree is a monumental undertaking. The sacred path to the sky must be perfected. The old landing strip, cleared by the men of John from with their roaring metal beasts, is good, but it is not enough. It was their runway, built for their purposes. You must now build your own, a runway built with faith, a landing strip that is not just a physical space, but a powerful spiritual magnet. The entire community is mobilized. This is the great work, the central act of devotion for your new faith. Under the prophet's direction, you abandon the old runway, which is now seen as tainted by the selfishness of the ghost men. You will create a new one, a purer one on a high plateau overlooking the sea, a place where the sky gods can see it clearly. The labor is immense, a testament to the power of your shared belief. You have no bulldozers, no earth movers. You have your hands, your digging sticks, and the few remaining steel shovels that are now treated as holy relics. You work from sunrise to sunset. The men clear the jungle, felling ancient trees with your stone adzes. The rhythmic thunk-thunk echoes across the island, no longer a sound of simple survival, but the sound of prayer, of construction for the divine. The women and children follow behind, carrying the undergrowth, pulling up the stubborn roots, and carrying the soil away in woven baskets. Slowly, painfully, a long straight scar begins to form in the green flesh of the jungle. It is hundreds of yards long, wider than any path you have ever made. The prophet walks the line of the runway each day, his eyes scanning for imperfections. It must be perfectly flat, perfectly straight. The spirits, he tells you, value order and precision. A crooked runway is a sign of a crooked faith. To guide the sky beasts in their descent, you build signal fires along the edges of the strip, just as you saw the ghost men do with their electric lights. At night, these fires are lit, sending flickering beacons of hope up into the darkness. You also build a replica of the control tower. It is a tall, spindly structure of bamboo, lashed together with vines. It has a small platform on top where a controller can stand watch. It is flimsy, its waves in the wind, but its shape is correct. Its form is a prayer. Perhaps the most poignant and iconic creations are the airplanes themselves. On the sides of the runway, you construct life-sized models of the sky beasts. You use the materials of your world. The fuselage is a long, expertly woven cylinder of bamboo and rattan. The wings are great, flat panels of woven palm fronds, stretched over a wooden frame. The propellers are carved from wood. Every detail you can remember is lovingly recreated. The wheels, the tail fin, even the strange symbols and numbers on the side, painted on with clay and charcoal. These straw and vine airplanes are not toys. They are decoys. They are sacred effigies. In the same way that a hunter might use a decoy to lure a flock of ducks from the sky, you are building these models to lure the great metal birds of John Frum. It is an act of sympathetic magic on a grand scale. You are showing the heavens what you desire. You are sending a clear, unmistakable signal into the spiritual ether. Outsiders, particularly at these activities, will be utterly captivated by these scenes. The image of a Melanesian islander sitting in the cockpit of a straw airplane, piloting it with a wooden steering wheel while staring into empty sky, will become the enduring symbol of the cargo cults. It will be interpreted as a symbol of irrationality, of a profound misunderstanding of cause and effect. Yet, the debate will continue. Is this truly a failure to understand technology? Or is it a deeply spiritual act, a form of active meditation and prayer that is no more or less rational than a monk lighting a candle in a cathedral? The core belief is the same. A physical act in this world can influence a spiritual power in another. As you stand back and look at your creation, the long, clean runway, the waiting signal fires, the silent, hopeful straw airplanes, you feel a surge of pride and profound faith. You have done the work. You have built a bridge between your world and the world of the cargo. Now all that is left to do is perform the rituals that will invite the gods to cross it. With the sacred ground prepared, your focus now turns to the holy relics, the tools of the ceremony. The marching dance of the ghost men was never performed empty-handed. They carried their thundersticks, the long black objects they held with such discipline and care. The prophet declares that you too must have these objects to perform the ritual correctly. Of course, the real thundersticks, the rifles, are gone. They were part of the cargo, and they vanished with their owners. But just as you recreated the voice box from wood and the airplane from vines, you now begin the holy work of carving your own. The men who are most skilled with the atom carving knife are tasked with this sacred duty. They select the straightest, strongest branches of ironwood. They spend days, weeks, meticulously shaping them. They work from memory, and the memories are vivid. You all remember the precise shape of the stock, the long, thin barrel, the trigger, the bolt. Every detail is painstakingly reproduced in the dark, dense wood. The finished products are not crude clubs. They are works of art, objects of remarkable verisimilitude. They are painted black with a mixture of charcoal and set to mimic the color of the original metal. As you hold one of the finished wooden rifles, It feels strange in your hands. It is lighter than you imagine a real one would be, but its form is perfect. It is not a weapon. You have no intention of using it to hunt or fight. It is a ritual object, a key. Its purpose is not to fire a projectile, but to focus your intent, to complete the visual grammar of the ceremony. Holding it on your shoulder, you feel a connection to the ghost men, a sense of shared purpose, putting on their spiritual armor. This creation of ritual paraphernalia extends to every aspect of the ghost men's appearance. The prophet, interpreting his visions, insists that to truly channel the Mala of John Frum, you must not only act like him, but look like him. You begin to fashion uniforms. You do not have the green woven cloth of the originals, so you use what you can. You paint your bodies with green clay. You weave belts from vines and carve buckles from shell. The most important and enigmatic part of the uniform is the strange symbols the ghost men wore on their arms and chests. The chevrons, the bars, the eagles. You did not understand them, but you recognized them as markers of rank and power. Now you reproduce them. On your bare chests you paint the letters U, S. You do not know what these symbols mean. They are not letters in the way you understand writing. They are sacred glyphs, powerful sigils that contain the essence of the cargo. They are words of power, and by painting them on your skin, you're invoking that power, drawing it into your cells. This practice, of course, fascinates linguists and semioticians who will study you later. They will debate the nature of this imitation. Is it a classic example of mimesis, the deep human instinct to imitate things of power? Or is it a misunderstanding of the nature of symbols, a belief that the symbol itself, detached from its original meaning, contains the power? For you, the debate is irrelevant. You saw men of great power wearing these marks. Therefore, the marks themselves must be powerful. The logic is direct and experiential. Even the small, mundane items from the cargo are recreated and given sacred status. You find an old Coca-Cola bottle, a precious relic, and declare it a holy water vessel. Men carve wooden dog tags and hang them around their necks with vine cords. The refuse of a military occupation has become the sacramental objects of a new religion. With your wooden rifles in hand and your chests painted with the holy letters, you feel a profound transformation. You are no longer just you, a man from your village. You are a soldier in the army of John Frum. You are part of a collective, a unified body dedicated to a single sacred purpose. The lethargy and despair that had crippled your community have been burned away by the fire of this new faith. A watchful stillness pregnant with the possibility of the imminent, miraculous return of the cargo. The day of the first great ceremony arrives. The prophet has declared that the preparations are complete, the omens are favorable. A nervous excitement buzzes through the village, a feeling you haven't felt since the first sky beasts arrived. This is it. This is the moment your faith will be tested, your work rewarded. You rise before dawn. You and the other chosen men, the soldiers, paint your chests with the sacred U, S, A, glyphs. You take up your newly carved wooden rifles, the smooth, dark wood cool in your hands. You march in a silent, single file from the village to the new, sacred runway on the high plateau. The women and children follow at a respectful distance, their faces a mixture of awe and hope. As the first sliver of sun breaks over the horizon, the prophet, standing at the base of the tall, woven control tower, gives the signal. The ceremony begins. He shouts a command, a word he has remembered via morning air. You and the other men snap to what you believe is the correct posture, standing stiffly, your wooden rifles held at your sides, your eyes fixed on the empty horizon. The prophet begins to call out the marching orders. Hut 2, 3, 4. Hut 2, 3, 4. His voice echoes across the landing strip. And you begin to march. Your bare feet stamp on the packed earth in a steady, pounding rhythm. You swing your arms, you hold your heads high. You are not used to this rigid, unnatural way of moving. Your lines waver. Men bump into each other. But you persist. You are not just walking. You are praying with your bodies. You march back and forth on the dusty runway. The sun climbs higher, beating down on your shoulders. Sweat trickles down your back, smudging the green clay on your skin. Your muscles begin to ache. But you do not stop. You focus on the rhythm, on the sound of your collective footsteps, on the prophet's voice. You are trying to generate a wave of energy, a powerful, unified signal that will travel up into the sky and be heard by the gods of the cargo. At the prescribed moment, the ceremony of the colored cloth is performed. Two men march solemnly to the flagpole. They attach the woven, earth-toned replica of the flag to the vine rope and slowly, reverently, raise it to the top. As it unfurls, a collective gasp of rises from the onlookers. You and the other soldiers turn to face it. The prophet shouts another command, and you all raise your right hands to your foreheads in the sacred salute. You stand frozen at a blow of devotion, staring at the flapping cloth, channeling all your hope, all your desire, into that single object. Then, the most sacred part of the ritual begins. The prophet climbs the flimsy bamboo tower and enters the small hut at the top. He sits at the small table and picks up the carved wooden handset of the replica radio. He holds the speaking cone to his mouth and begins the incantations. "Come in, John Frum," he chants, his voice filled with desperate fervor. "Come in, base. We are ready. The way is prepared. Send the cargo. Over." He repeats the phrases again and again, a litany of hope. Another man, acting as the radio operator, puts two halves of a coconut shell over his ears, pretending they are headphones, listening intently for a reply from the spirit world. This scene, this meticulous, heartfelt, and ultimately futile performance of a military drill, is the emotional and theological climax of the movement. It is a moment that will be debated endlessly by outsiders. Is it a profound expression of the human capacity to create meaning and hope in the face of overwhelming change and loss? Some scholars will argue that the ritual's true function was not to bring airplanes, but to bring the community together, to restore a sense of order, discipline, and shared purpose that had been shattered. The marching and the drilling were a form of social therapy, a way of rebuilding a broken society from the ground up. For you, standing under the hot sun, your wooden rifle on your shoulder, it is none of these things. It is simply an act of absolute faith. You look at the empty blue sky, and you do not see emptiness. You see a pregnant void, a stage waiting for the actors to arrive. Every fiber of your being is focused on that sky, listening, waiting. The cargo will come. It has to. You have done everything right. The first ceremony ends as the sun reaches its zenith. The prophet's voice is hoarse from his incantations into the wooden radio. Your own body aches from the unaccustomed discipline of the march. You lower the woven flag with the same solemnity you raised it, and you march back to the village. The mood is not one of disappointment, but of weary, hopeful satisfaction. You have done the work. You have sent the message. Now you must wait for the reply. And so the long vigil begins. It is not a passive waiting. It is an active, disciplined, religious observance. Every single day, you and the other soldiers of John Frum perform the rituals. Every morning, you march on the sacred runway. Every day, you raise and lower the flag. Every afternoon, the prophet and his assistants climb the tower to speak with the ancestors to place their orders for the cargo. The rest of your life is reoriented around this central, daily act of worship. The yam gardens are tended just enough to provide a meager subsistence, but they are no longer the focus of your lives. The real work, the important work, is the work of the cargo. The old rituals of the ancestors are forgotten, fading like dreams upon waking. Who has time to chant to the yam spirits when the great sky beasts could arrive at any moment? Days turn into weeks. The sky remains empty. The only sound is the wind whistling across the landing strip and the rhythmic stamp of your marching feet. A few whispers of doubt begin to surface. An old woman is heard muttering that the ancestors are angry at being neglected. A man complains that his children's bellies are not being filled by the marching. But the prophet is quick to quell these seeds of dissent. He preaches with even greater fervor. The spirits are testing you, he explains. They are testing your faith, your patience. The cargo they have prepared for you is so immense, so wonderful, that they must be sure you are truly worthy before they send it. To give up now would be to fail the test at the final moment. He points to small signs as evidence of their impending arrival. A cloud formation that looks like one of the sky beasts. A distant rumble of thunder that sounds like their engines. He interprets these as omens, as signals that your prayers are being heard and the cargo is on its way. To maintain morale and discipline, the rituals become more elaborate. You build more of the straw and vine airplanes, each one a more perfect replica than the last. You add new details to your uniforms, carving wooden medals to pin to your chests. The marching drills become more complex, your lines straighter, your movements more synchronized. The entire community is caught in a cycle of escalating ritual and deferred hope. This period of intense, unruffled ritual is known to social scientists as the organization of charisma. The initial, ecstatic energy of the prophet's revelation must be transformed into a stable, repeatable set of practices that can sustain the community over the long term. The rituals themselves become the focus, a way of holding the group together while they wait for the miracle. However, there is a fierce debate about the ultimate psychological effect of this vigil. Does it reinforce faith, creating a community so invested that they can never admit they were wrong? Or does it slowly erode belief, a quiet draining of hope that will eventually lead to collapse? You see both forces at work around you. For some, the daily marching is a source of strength and solidarity. It gives their lives a structure and a purpose that had been lost. For others, you can see the light in their eyes beginning to dim. The movements become more mechanical, the chants less fervent. The silence from the sky is becoming harder and harder to interpret as a test of faith. It is beginning to feel, once again, like simple silence. You stand on the watchtower one evening, looking out over the runway you helped build. The signal fires cast long dancing shadows. The straw airplanes sit in the twilight, patient and silent, their woven wings silhouetted against the starry sky. You have poured all of your energy, all of your belief into this place. You have done everything the prophet asked. You have marched until your feet were raw, and you have stared at the sky until your eyes ached. A flicker of a question, a dangerous, heretical thought enters your mind for the first time. What if it doesn't work? What if the cargo never comes? You push the thought away. To believe that is to accept a world without meaning, without hope. It is better to wait. And so you do. You wait. The vigil has lasted for years. A new generation has been born that has never seen a real sky beast, that has only known the marching, the wooden rifles, and the constant, fervent hope. The landing strip is meticulously maintained, a clean, straight path of faith carved into the ever-persistent jungle. The rituals are as much a part of your daily life as eating and sleeping. The cargo has not died. It has simply changed. It has become a permanent feature of your world, a religion not of arrival but of anticipation. Then one day a new kind of visitor arrives, not from the sky but from the sea. A small sailboat, its white sail bright against the blue of the lagoon, anchors just beyond the reef. A small boat is lowered, and a single man rows to shore. He is not like the men of John Frum. He is not wear a green uniform or carry a thunder stick. He wears strange, brightly colored clothes under stick. He wears strange, brightly colored clothes and a wide-brimmed hat to shield him from the sun. But he seems less like a spirit and more like just a man. A very curious man. He is an anthropologist. He has come here because rumors of your strange new religion have finally reached the outside world. He has come to study you. He does not bring rates of cargo. He brings a notebook, a camera, and a seemingly endless supply of questions. His arrival causes a great stir and a theological crisis. The prophet is unsure how to interpret this new sign. Is this man a scout, a messenger sent by John Frum to inspect your preparations? Or is he something else entirely, an agent of some other unknown power? The anthropologist is patient. He learns a few words of your language. He does not laugh at your rituals. He watches the marching with a look of intense, serious concentration. He asks to see the carved radios in the straw airplanes, and he examines them with a gentle respect. He asks the prophet about his visions. He talks to the elders about the time before the cargo. He is trying to understand your world from the inside. Through a painstaking process of translation, using gestures and a growing shared vocabulary, he tries to explain where the men of John Frum really came from. He tries to tell you about a great war, about a country called America that is not in the sky but on the other side of the world, a place you would have to sail for many moons to reach. He explains that the cargo was not created by ancestors in a spirit factory. It was made in giant, noisy buildings called factories by ordinary men. He tells you that the airplanes are not magic, but machines that work on a principle called lift. His explanations are met with polite, uncomrephantide silence. His words are just sounds. They do not match the reality you have witnessed with your own eyes. How could a mere man build a sky beast? A concept you cannot even imagine produce a tin of meat. His logical explanations are far more unbelievable, far more magical than your own. To you, it is much more rational to believe that the pale men were spirits than to believe in a world of such impossible, God-like technology. The presence of the anthropologist creates a schism in the faith. Some, influenced by his gentle skepticism, begin to waver. They see that this new man is pale-skinned but has no cargo, which complicates the simple equation of whiteness and power. Perhaps they whisper, the old ways of the yams should be revisited. But for the true believers, the anthropologist's explanations are simply a test of their faith, a series of lies sent to lead them astray. The prophet declares that this new man is a trickster spirit. He argues that the story of the war is a fable designed to hide the true, spiritual nature of the cargo. This confrontation between the indigenous belief system and the secular, scientific worldview of the anthropologist is a moment of profound and complex cultural encounter. It raises a question that scholars are still grappling with: who is interpreting whom? Is the anthropologist objectively studying your irrational beliefs? Or are you rationally interpreting his magical stories about a world of factories and machines, and finding them wanting? The line between logic and belief becomes incredibly blurry. The anthropologist eventually leaves, his notebooks full of observations that will make him famous. He has not changed your mind. His visit, in fact, has the opposite effect for many. It strengthens your faith. The fact that the outside world is now taking notice of you is seen as a sign. Your rituals are working. They are sending a signal out into the world. John Frum has heard you, and he is beginning to send his messengers. The arrival of the real cargo, you believe, is now closer than ever. Years slide by, fluid and indistinct, measured not in harvests or seasons, but in the endless, hopeful rhythm of the daily march. The world outside changes in ways you cannot imagine, but here on your island, time has become a circle. The prophet grows old, his voice now a cracked whisper, but his eyes still burn with the certainty of his original vision. You are an elder now yourself, marches on the sacred runway with a wooden rifle you carved for him. He has never tasted spam from a tin, but he believes in it with a purity you almost envy. Your faith has proven to be more resilient than any of the outsiders could have predicted. It has survived the long silence from the sky. It has survived the rational explanations of the anthropologists. It has survived the slow decay of the last physical relics of the cargo. It has become a tradition, a way of life, an identity. The story of John Frum is no longer just a memory of a strange event. It is your defining myth, the story you tell yourselves about who you are. The practices have evolved. The intense daily marching has, in some years, given way to a weekly ceremony or a great annual festival. The focus has shifted slightly. While the older generation still prays for the literation sees the story in more symbolic terms, cargo has come to mean something more than just material goods. It means prosperity, modernity, a connection to the powerful outside world. It is a dream of a better future, a hope for a life of dignity and respect in a world that seems to have left you behind. You sometimes walk to the edge of the plateau and look out at the runway. The straw airplanes have been rebuilt a dozen times, their woven wings gradually dissolving into the earth before being resurrected by a new generation of believers. They stand as silent, patient monuments to an unwavering hope, and in their silent vigil they ask a profound question: were you wrong? The easy answer, the one the outside world would give, is yes. You misunderstood technology as magic. You mistook a military supply chain for a divine miracle. Your entire religion is based on a fundamental error of causality. But as you stand there, the sea breeze on your weathered face, you consider a different possibility. The world you lived in before the sky spoke was a world of balance. Ritual and work were intertwined. You gave to the spirits, and the spirits gave back. You worked the earth, and the earth fed you. It was a system that sustained your people for 1,000 years. The men of John Frum arrived and demonstrated a new system, one of seemingly infinite reward for no discernible work. They shattered your reality. Your religion, the cargo cult, was not an act of ignorance. It was a desperate, courageous, and deeply rational attempt to make sense of a senseless event. It was an effort to restore the cosmic balance, to find the new ritual that would make the world provide for you once again. This is the argument that some revisionist historians and sympathetic anthropologists will eventually make. They will argue that to label your beliefs as irrational is to impose an external, Western standard of logic. Within your own cosmological framework, the cargo cult was a perfectly logical response to the evidence you saw. You were scientists of the spirit, observing a phenomenon and attempting to replicate the conditions that caused it. The fact that the tools you used were wooden faith instead of metal and fuel does not make the underlying intellectual process any less valid. You look up at the vast, empty sky. You no longer expect a sky beast to appear over the horizon at any given moment. The fervent, desperate hope of the early years has mellowed into a deeper, more patient kind of faith. The story of John Frum and his cargo has become the vessel that holds your history, your dreams. Perhaps the cargo was never the point. Perhaps the real gift was the sense of purpose, the unity, the hope that you built together in the long silence that followed the departure of the gods. Perhaps the cargo you were really praying for was the strength to endure, and perhaps in a way, that prayer was answered. The marching continues. The vigil is not over. It is simply your way. And so the island continues its patient watch, caught in a dream of things that once were, and things that might yet be. The story, like the belief itself, does not truly end. It simply fades into the ongoing rhythm of the days, a gentle, steady marching, a quiet, hopeful gaze turned forever towards the sky. The path of our story concludes here, in this place of enduring faith. As we leave them to their vigil, you can feel the narrative beginning to dissolve, its sharp edges softening, like a memory drifting into the quiet landscape of a dream. The sounds of the jungle, the scent of the salt spray, the heat of the tropical sun, all of it can begin to fade now, leaving behind only a sense of peace, a feeling of gentle release. The story has done its work. It has carried you from the day into the night, from thought into stillness, and now it can let you go, allowing you to drift even further on the slow, warm currents of your own deep and restful sleep. The curtain falls on this peaceful scene. For those still in the audience, the next play is ready to begin whenever you are. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.